Hi, everyone. Byron White here, host of the 55th Content Marketing Webinar. Wow, that's a good thing I'm not counting years of my age there, but pretty close, actually. So happy to have everyone aboard. I'm here with David. David, can you hear me?
I can, Byron. Hopefully you can hear me as well.
Indeed. Yes. Thanks for being with us today.
Absolutely.
So you're a bit of an icon, call it a mogul in the business of book publishing, and you've published 10 books, your most famous of which, of course, is The New Rules of Marketing and PR, and you published a new book, and the new book is The New Rules of Sales and Service. Your New Rules of Marketing PR, however, is on its 4th edition. You wrote that in 2007. Wow, 26 languages.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I travel to a lot of those countries. I've done presentations in 40 different countries.
Now, 10 books in 12 years, that's sort of a factory of books. Is your brain exhausted?
It's ridiculous is what it is. I actually need to take some time off.
Like a decade, maybe?
Yeah, that's just too much. I'm gonna go a little bit slower for the next decade. I did a book a year for a decade. The next decade is slowing down.
Your interest in content marketing goes way, way back, and arguably one of the first publishers on the topic. Can you talk about that for a second? Why did content as a marketing tool strike your fancy?
Really simply because I worked my entire career for content companies as a marketing person. I started off actually working for Dean Witter on a Wall Street bond trading desk. That was real short, but then I switched over to economic consulting, which is real-time economic consulting. Did that for a couple of years. I worked for Knight Ridder, the late, great Knight Ridder, second largest American newspaper company, for 6 years, and then I was working for a company called NewsEdge, which was acquired by Thomson Reuters also for 6 years. So spent my entire career in the marketing department of media companies. And I realized when I got out, I actually got fired, so I had to find a new gig, which turned out to be going out on my own and writing books and giving speeches. But I realized that the best form of marketing out there is to create content. And lo and behold, I was the one person out there who had experience with real-time electronic information and marketing and journalism, and I was able to put all of those things together around these ideas, starting in around 2002, and then culminating with the first book I wrote about content marketing that came out in 2005.
I had started a content marketing agency around 2006 and 7, and we were like not only the new kids on the block, but were pretty much turned away by most of the people that just couldn't understand content marketing being its own thing. But, pretty brave for you to sort of put the chips in and say, this is big, people, listen up. Did that first book have success? And tell us about that. That was a book in 2005.
The book that came out in 2005 was way too early, unfortunately. Well, actually, fortunately, because I drew a line in the sand. I knew that there was something out there. A bunch of other people who read it said, wow, this is the future. But it wasn't a big bunch. It sold about 3,000 copies. However, then in 2007, I did a similar book called The New Rules of Marketing and PR, and that one has sold 350,000 copies, so 100 times as many copies. I think I hit the market right with that one. But that first book on content marketing, I think, was just a little bit too early. It also suffers from a terrible name. The book's title doesn't really describe what it's about.
Cashing in with content.
Cashing in with content. Cashing in with content. Please, nobody buy it because it's dated. Although, if you want to see a historical relic of what the first content marketing book looks like, then you can buy it.
Well, we're excited about your new book, The New Rules of Sales and Service, and I think that we're going to have a lot of fun today. So let me dive right in and just deliver a quick presentation to everyone in 10 or 15 minutes, and I'm going to turn the floor over to you, David, and we'll have at it. Sure. So A couple things. One, I'd really encourage everybody to write some questions down, if you would, using the Find GoToWebinar tool set over there, and I'll be moderating any questions and feed them to David and/or myself, whoever you direct them to. So have at it. Ask lots of questions as this presentation continues on. My gig, I'm sort of going to walk you through, if you would, a simple presentation here to try to sort of make you understand, if possible, how these three elements of content, sales, and service really helped us grow here at WriterAccess and make the Fortune 5000 list. So to start out, most of our competition has been funded by VCs. There's a lot of these platforms out there, TextBroker, Skyward, Contently, Scripted. Most of them are received somewhere between $5 and $20 million of funding to grow these new marketplaces that have sprouted up and trying to represent freelance writers as best as any of us could and to attract new customers. Well, we had to figure out a way to grow and sort of beat them, if you will, or really growing organically. We didn't have the big budget to do that. So to achieve our goals, we really wanted to do something a little bit different and hyper-focus the limited resources we have to capture market share and make it all work. So step one is we really joined the content marketing revolution, and I sort of did this a long time ago, as mentioned before. I started a full-service content marketing agency back in like 2006, 2007, working with companies like the Company Store, Brookstone, FTD, Walmart, on the B2C side, B2B, Salesforce, Iron Mountain, really great companies that were hiring us as almost pioneers to go help them answer some important questions. How much content do I need to be successful? How good does it need to be? Where do I need to publish it and distribute it? And what ROI would I need from that investment? Those were difficult questions to answer, and honestly, we were making stuff up and trying and experimenting with new things to answer those difficult questions. But we got very good at content planning and strategy, and we started to see impact from all these customers that were paying us a lot of money. And we found most of our attraction by creating great informational guides and content and helping them with webinars and workbooks and all kinds of different diverse assets that would be aimed at customers trying to orbit at high speeds. So step one is we really joined the content marketing revolution ourselves in publishing a lot of content, and we did the same with WriterAccess. We went big with WriterAccess with content. You can see that exemplified with 55 webinars. We've got guides, we've got downloadable assets, we've got help wanted sections, we've got all kinds of interesting assets, including 2 books I published, which I'll be giving away in this presentation deck, one on the content marketing roadmap, another one on professional writing and skill guides. So we went big with content marketing, and that's really, I think, one of the reasons we're very successful. Step 2 was to sort of figure out how to support all of these inbound leads, and that was to hire some sales reps to help all of these leads that were pouring into us, literally hundreds a week that we couldn't even begin to imagine handling. How do we sort of nurture those leads? What do we do? And sales obviously needs to be an important component of any content marketing strategy or arguably inbound marketing strategy. It always brings a smile to my face when I look back on some of those original HubSpot inbound, wonderful assets that they put together that sort of describe, cold calling is dead, sales are maybe even dead, no more calling your customers, somehow they're just going to come to you. Well, in fact, HubSpot has a wonderfully large sales force, and they're making lots of calls, and they're calling people, granted, that are warmer in the funnel and have expressed interest in HubSpot's technologies and or information that they're publishing. So arguably they're better leads, but nevertheless, selling certainly isn't dead, but the trick is and certainly for us, is to tell our reps to stop selling and start asking questions using lots of Socratic techniques that we've taught them over the years, and listening to really what they want, and to then formulate content that could answer some of their questions and problems and interest levels that would be well beyond the scope of just sales collateral. So stop selling and start listening is the model there. So step 3 was to really analyze customers uncertainty when they're hiring writers in the platform, and what their resistance is and what their pain points are, and to try to learn that in some systematic way. So we really learned how to ease this pain by focusing our customers on our value proposition and a deeper understanding of really what our DNA was all about. And that is simple. We are here to help you produce great content. We will offer you fanatical support. And oh, by the way, if you're not delighted, you don't pay. So these simple, this proposition, if you will, really helped us and it helped us connect with customers and relieve that pain point of buying in this scary online platform, much different than running an ad on Craigslist or Media Bistro. So, and then sifting through resumes and then guessing the one that you might want to plop down a $3,000 white paper project on. Those days are gone, and we helped revolutionize that transition with just some of our core principles. But so let me sort of explain to you now, what I call the 12 strategies that fit with content sales and customer service, which I think is really where we are. So strategy number 1, I think, of 12 is this notion that you really need to use common sense with your business and your business plan. And from our perspective, we knew that we needed to stand out. We knew we needed to be different, and we quickly recognized that being transparent with our rates, our pay rates, for example, provided a quick and fast and easy way to potentially attract the best writers in the marketplace that could at least look at us and say, at least I know what I'm going to be getting over there, whereas other models that we compete with are maybe on 50-50 margins. We have a much different philosophy, and that helped us attract the best customers. Likewise, with our customers, many of our common sense elements like posting, our transparency of our rates allowed our customers to communicate with writers and know exactly what they would be paid, removing the guesswork and other things like that we've done, like posting the star ratings of our writers' performance, helps our customers align price with the quality demands that our customer is expecting from a project. So just using common sense to develop strategies with this platform has really been a big driver for us in our success. Strategy 2 is really empowering customer service reps to feel like and to think in their minds like basically our brand is in fact the words that they're saying and how they're representing us, the attitude that they have both with customers. They are our brand, and we really believe that. And when we teach and train our customers, we dig very deep and we try to hire the right representatives. There's a wonderful book that I highly recommend called Who by Jeff Smart and Randy Street that has greatly helped us attract talent, full-time employees to our company that think the way that we do and that have expectations with their own career that align with the goals that we have at our company here. And that alignment is critical for success and helps each of us hire great people and get involved in that process to make sure that we're empowering these representatives to make our customers feel like they're representing our brand. Strategy 3. Just this concept that customers do really come in all shapes and sizes. And when you're working on a platform like ours that's attracted over 10,000 customers from that original pool of 100 customers that we used to service with full-service content marketing agency work, that scale, that growth is only possible when you begin to service different customers with different needs that have a different level of quality and expectations that they have in the platform. Very difficult to build models, particularly software models, around diverse customer needs. But the subtleties that we bring to the table are things like pricing rates that range from 2 cents to $2 per word. Can you imagine that radical, variation with prices? Most of the competitors sort of land in one zone. Like, XYZ competitor might want to be the cheap low-end content and just do lots of it and high volume and build their brand and reputation there. Other say full-time, full-service agencies want to be at the $2 per word price, and And you're going to get a lot of service along with that, maybe some content planning and strategy and high-end work. But, we believe in building a model where everyone can get what they want in the platform if so directed, much like an airline traffic controller can send people to different runways based upon what they're looking for. That's how we built our technology and our platform and our whole approach to purchasing content through freelance writers online. Strategy 4, is just managing customers and their touch points in creative ways. In our world, it's kind of radical because we've got to certainly understand what a customer is spending, what writers they are using, whether they're satisfied or unsatisfied with the orders that are being created. We need to see all of that to evaluate how a customer is receiving and responding to our process and our procedure. Likewise, on the writer end, same story there. Are their orders being completed successfully? What's their turnaround time? Are they dropping orders? There's just so much great data out there that we have at our fingertips because we made decisions to build our own CRM on our own and to learn all of this, to learn what's working and what's not. Even our algorithm that scores writers, we've got to build all this and map out where we spend our time. And that's the key factor. It's not just the data itself. It's how you map your daily activity and where you push your limited time you have. What customers do you talk with today versus what problems you have? Is it reactionary? Are you just putting fires out, or are you more strategic using technology and some methodology? So step 5, wowing customers. I love this concept of surprise. I've always enjoyed it when I receive something that I didn't ask for from a vendor that I'm working with. There's a power there, and I think we forget about that in today's days of automation. Handwritten notes seem to be part of the dinosaur age. I think that's wrong. I think every new customer that signs up with WriterAccess, we basically physically write. Granted, I don't write all of them. I'll confess that to everybody. But we physically write a thank you note for signing up, and we deliver not only a thank you note from our team, but we also offer a signed copy of my book with a nice note on it that says, "Welcome to the Content Marketing Revolution." We send out my first book, The Content Marketing Roadmap. So it's put in the mail. It's a nice touch. It's a surprise. And we typically, unless we're doing some A/B testing and have learned that that's a great conversion path, we don't tell them we're doing that. We just mail it to them. It's been, I think, a big reason that we've been successful. And again, this could be a customer spending only $50 with us. So step 6, find your brand's love mark. So I'm a big fan of Kevin Roberts, who I saw speak some time ago, talking a little bit about a book he wrote called Sysimo, which I highly recommend you take a look at. And, as it turns out, customers like, love, and interact with brands much like they do people. And Sysimo sort of gets deeper and suggests there are 3 keys to the heart of a potential buyer: mystery, sensuality, and intimacy. And these 3 key elements come to life with what Kevin calls sight, sound, and motion on the many screens that we look at in the course of the day. TVs, GPSs, phones, all kinds of things. Billboards these days are visual, interactive screens. So what we need to really do, according to Kevin in his wonderful book, is to catch these customers orbiting at high speeds with information they really want and need. And we do that in a variety of ways at WriterAccess and trying to really sometimes crazy things. I remember we sent out this guide for people that was very popular on the Stanley Cup was going on, so we did a review of the most popular hockey players playing in the Stanley Cup finals last year. So why not use data? Why not try to build interesting and creative content and showcase to our customers even how you can be creative, think out of the box, and produce content that's relevant, that's engaging, that turns browsers into believers of your brand through things that you love and in turn they love. Strategy 7 is to really focus on creating confidence and earning trust. And I know these are very basic, sort of signals that we have been communicating for many years to our representatives, but I do really believe that these are worth taking a look at, if nothing else, to refresh your memory on how important these elements are for overall success. Calling when you say you will, doing what you say you're going to do. I believe our customers are looking closely and monitoring our interaction with them and our delivery and tracking what we tell them and how we deliver on that. So rather than just saying, hey, I'll call you next week, why not say, hey, I'll call you next week at 3 p.m. on Wednesday, and actually delivering on that. That is how you earn trust with prospect customers, not the vague, murky world with, let's feel it out sort of mentality. Strategy 8 is interesting, and that's really this whole concept of the steps for engagement in your business and analyzing those steps and getting really granular with how to really bring some creativity to those steps. So here's a challenge for you. Try to create literally a path, if you will. Analyze the path, the conversion path for your business, and try to basically break that down, map out all the steps of what your customers go through to do business with you. Analyze each step and come up with creative ideas for betterment that make that process somehow faster, easier, better, and more fun. It's a challenge, but I guarantee you if you can come up with some very interesting elements here that will add some new zip and zing to test and try, you'll have great success. We've done that, and do take a look at Shep Hyken's book, a couple of his great books. He's really a fanatic on building customer confidence and loyalty, and has some great ideas to help you get there. Strategy 9 is managing the details, and many of you may have heard the famous story of Van Halen, and they put on their checklist with a production company putting together all of their incredibly intense details of each show they presented, and one of the details was we want only brown M&Ms in the dressing rooms. And while it would have been very easy to lose this sense of detail, in fact it wasn't. And it was a smash hit, and the production company was therefore a great success and went on to do many more concerts for many, many millions of dollars because of their attention to detail. Strategy 10. Fairly simple once again, but I would suggest mastering the art of recovery is an essential element for all customers. When you put through 500,000 orders, which we have done in the last few years, you see a lot of things happen, and a lot can obviously conceivably go wrong. We're very blessed with the 98% success rate with the orders they'd go through. Actually, a 99.4, I think, technically. The other small percentage there was orders that required revisions, and anyway, the net of it is when an order doesn't go the way that a customer wants it to, fix it. Fix it by refunding the money, and that's our delight guarantee policy. But not just fixing it, do it with the right attitude and make sure that there's a sense of urgency along the way, and always thank your customers for the opportunity to work with them and to give us another shot or do whatever it takes. That thank you is probably the most important thing with regards to the recovery effort that everyone needs to go through in this fast-paced business world that we are now in. Strategy 11 that's helped us is understanding what motivates amazingness. And amazingness, as it turns out, is not just motivated by money. This is particularly interesting with regards to our writers and our talent pool. When we introduced endorsements to the WriterAccess platform, it really seems to me that the writers that were getting the endorsements were just plain doing better work. And I'm not sure which comes first in that regard, but getting that recognition, feeling that praise from your customers that you did a great job, that they're endorsing you for work is a very powerful thing in a platform like ours, where your brand and your reputation is transparent with customers and prospect customers visiting you. So take a close note of that. It's not just money that motivates. It's a lot of other incredible things, especially when you're working in a platform like this. And I would also suggest that that is important with regards to employees as well. So strategy 12, the final strategy, is remove the guesswork with customer satisfaction. We do that with a great book by Rob Markey and Fred Reichheld that talks a little bit about the one question that you have to ask your customers. We ask all our customers, on a scale of 1 to 10, what is the likelihood that you would refer us to a friend or colleague? That one question allows us to quickly identify who likes us and who doesn't like us, who loves us, and we can then analyze what activity happened with that customer. How were they onboarded? Who was their customer service specialist? What writers did they use? What was the ratings of the writers? How complex were their orders? What type of orders were they placing? Once again, big data can come into play in helping you understand what is the right fit, what kind of customer should you be looking for, how does this all work together? So remove the guesswork, find out what works and what doesn't work, and quickly jump on what doesn't work and reach out to those customers and see if there's any way that you can, A, learn from them, and B, take their ideas for betterment and implement them. So here's a brief conclusion, and that is, loyal customers are really the secret to accelerating business growth. And sort of, with that comes decreasing user acquisition costs by referrals and all kinds of great things that propelled us to grow more than 120% every year for the last 3 years, and therefore making the Inc. 5000 list. So here's a couple links to download both of my books. The Content Marketing Roadmap was one of my treasures that I wrote about 3 years ago that's popular and has a lot of tips and advice on how to be successful with the complex content marketing process and workflow, ranging from planning to performance measurement. And next, I wrote a book just a few months ago on professional writing skill and price guide, and it really tries to sort of helps people understand what do you actually get when you pay more for content. What can you expect? What does that look like? What are examples that can actually pinpoint exactly what I should be expecting from a writer that I pay more money? And I found this book is helpful not only for customers but for writers, which is really why I wrote it, to sort of get everybody in our marketplace on the same page and really on the planet, at least with regards to prices as they align with the quality that you demand for your investment. So I hope this helps. I'm going to turn everyone over to David now. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back with some FAQs. I'll be back with some FAQs with everybody after David's fabulous presentation. Look forward to some questions from everyone.
Okay, Byron, I was having a lot of trouble hearing you.
Interesting.
So I'm going to just press on, but you were cutting out for me, and I'm not sure whether you were cutting out for others on the call.
Cool. I thank you for pointing that out. I can hear you fine, so
okay.
We'll keep you posted if there's any problems on your end. Maybe it's
okay.
my line.
All right, great. So I'll just press on and just assume that everyone's hearing me. I'm David Meerman Scott here. Let's talk about content, sales, and service. I'm going to start out. Let me just get going here. So let's talk about what I call the new rules of selling. There's 5 different ideas around the new rules of selling, and we'll talk a little bit about each one. Storytelling, we'll talk about content, we'll talk about big data, we'll talk about agile selling, and we'll talk about the idea of real-time engagement. So people like to buy. Gosh, once I figured out how I was going to get my wife to Antarctica, I was happy to spend $20,000 to get us there. It was a thrill to spend that money. I didn't want to be sold to, but I was happy to buy. Okay, number 1, storytelling. And I don't mean fairy tales here. Storytelling sets the tone. Back in the day, 200 years ago, our great-great-grandparents did business with companies that were located in their town. They went to the town square, bought chickens from the people they knew, had their clothing made and repaired from the people that they knew. And then for the last 50 to 75 years, we've had this aberration of mass marketing where companies became nameless, faceless organizations. Now we're back to the future, back to where we were 100 years ago, 200 years ago, in that you can communicate instantly with the companies you want to do business with, just like I communicated with people at Quark Expeditions, including the CEO of the company. Storytelling comes from the top. I did illustrate that with Brian Halligan from HubSpot. I'm on the HubSpot advisory board. Brian is a very engaged CEO. Brian tweets, he writes articles, he creates great content, and as a result, he has great search engine results for his name. And Brian has an interesting bio on the HubSpot.com website. But Brian told me something very, very interesting about this bio. 20% of his new customers over the past 3 years visited his bio page. Now, that's really interesting. That says that people want to know who it is that they're doing business with, whether it's the CEO of the company or whether it's the individual salespeople within a company. So that shows that you just really got to be creating content, like Hans, the CEO of Quark Expeditions, like Brian, the CEO of HubSpot. The idea of the storytelling, of content creation, comes from the top, and it helps to drive business. By the way, HubSpot, very successful as a result of this kind of strategy. They just filed for their IPO. You can achieve a similar success. Content, I mean, we all know about content, but it truly is the link between companies and customers. The sales cycle is now the buying cycle. This is one of my favorite examples of content marketing because this is real-time content marketing. My favorite form of content marketing is this idea of real-time content marketing, specifically a concept I popularized called newsjacking. Eloqua is a marketing automation software provider, B2B software provider, and the CEO of Eloqua, his name is Joe Payne, noticed on his mobile device somebody had emailed him to tell him that his biggest competitor, a company called Market to Lead, had just been acquired by Oracle, this giant software company. So Joe, using his mobile device, went and did a search for Oracle and Market to Lead to see what would pop up. And this is the only thing he could find because this announcement had just been made minutes before the acquisition of one of his biggest competitors. But it's only 3 sentences. And in typical big company corporate speak, it says absolutely nothing. We have acquired this company and you will like it. I mean, it looks to me like this is sort of a North Korean style announcement, doesn't it? There's nothing there. Now, from a content perspective, Joe knew he had a tremendous opportunity because there was essentially no information being delivered by Oracle, the company that made this acquisition, and he had an opportunity to define what this market now was about. So he engaged in real-time content marketing, specifically the idea of newsjacking, which is when you inject your ideas through content into a breaking news story to generate tons of attention for your business. That's exactly what Joe did. He did this blog post. He wrote it within 2 hours of this announcement being made and published it within 2 hours of this announcement being made. Title of the blog post, Oracle Joins the Party, where he talked about what this acquisition means for the marketing automation software business. And then, because the journalists are scrambling for information in order to write their stories, all they find is that 3-sentence announcement from Oracle and this wonderful blog post from Joe Payne. So he gets quoted in Bloomberg Business Week. He gets quoted in the Customer Think, which is an important blog in their industry. He gets quoted in PC World. He gets quoted in Information World. I don't know about you, but can you imagine if you were working at Oracle, how annoyed you'd be if the CEO of the competition skunked your acquisition announcement. But that's exactly what you can do with effective, real-time content creation, specifically newsjacking, injecting your ideas into a breaking news story. But then they went even further. What they did was email a link to that blog post to their clients and prospects. Then they tweeted a link to that blog post through their Twitter, and sent out information through their LinkedIn. As a result of doing that, this one blog post, this one real-time blog post generated $1 million worth of new business. Now talk about the value of a piece of written content. Specifically and absolutely can be definitively calculated that blog post generated more than $1 million worth of new business, one blog post. That's the idea here, real-time content creation. You can achieve a similar success. And incidentally, a punchline to this story is just a couple of, it's about a year after this announcement that Oracle had purchased Market to Lead, then Oracle also purchased Eloqua. And I thought that was kind of funny. My guess is that tens of millions of dollars of that purchase price was as a result of the extra $1 million in revenue that they had as a result of that $1 million new blog post. So that's kind of neat. This is about educating and informing your buyers instead of interrupting and selling them. So I became reasonably well known because I wrote this book called The New Rules of Marketing and PR about how content drives marketing and PR. My most recent book, as Byron kindly said, is The New Rules of Sales and Service, which just came out in September of 2014. And that's also about content, but how it can be used to drive sales and service. The differences I see are real simple. Marketing reaches multiple buyers at once. So one piece of content reaching multiple people. However, sales becomes when a salesperson curates content to deliver it to one buyer at a time based on their needs, based on the context of the relationship. So it's one-to-many and one-to-one. That's the difference. And they're absolutely interrelated, just like that example I share with Eloqua, where they sent out the blog post that goes out to many people, and then the salespeople send out via email a link to the blog post to one person at a time. I always say to salespeople who have trouble with this sort of thing, don't sell. What's the difference? Think about how different it would be if you were trying to date the buyer. And I know there's some people, this is kind of a creepy slide, and I kind of get that. But, yeah, there's a big difference. If you're trying to date someone, you don't put the hard sell on them right away. You don't ask them for their personal information right away. You casually ask them if they might want to go to Starbucks. I mean, I'm happily married for 24 years, so I don't know anything about this in the modern era. But, you don't try to sell that person. You date them. That's what you want to do with your buyers. That's what content can do. By the way, you can get a version of these slides, actually much more slides than I'm showing right now, on SlideShare. It's totally free. The New Rules of Selling. Just go to Google, type in the New Rules of Selling, you'll find it. And incidentally, what a great form of content SlideShare is. Holy cow. I released this presentation deck on SlideShare 1 month before I took this screenshot. So in just a month, nearly 110,000 views of this SlideShare. In fact, the screenshot I took yesterday, there's been about 600 or 700 more views since I took this screenshot less than 24 hours ago. So how cool is that as a form of content delivery? SlideShare. If you're not doing SlideShare now, you should be thinking about it because it's a wonderful way to deliver content. Number 3, big data. I know big data is a buzzword, I get that, but there are some really interesting things you can do if you can harness a vast amount of data within an organization to take advantage of how you can deliver content to people. Because people are interested in finding stuff out right now. I actually call this idea sales signals, using big data to predict where a prospect is in the buying process. So for example, if somebody visits a very particular piece of content on your site, it's possible to understand who that person is and what content they viewed, and it's possible then to create the right kind of next approach to that person. So that's a very valuable thing. If somebody opens an email that you sent them, that's also a sales signal. That's also very valuable to understand. If you share private information with somebody in the form of, I actually use this service called Postwire to do this, and when they visit that, sometimes this is called a personal URL or PURL, then that's also really valuable information. If somebody gets a new job either in their current company or they move companies, and you learn that through LinkedIn, that's a sales signal. So there's a number of different sales signals that you can figure out, but the data required to do this, you have to really crunch the data to figure this out. Therefore, it involves this concept of big data to be able to help drive the selling process. Agile selling, number 4, this whole idea of real-time, instant communications is fascinating. And the decisive advantage here is speed. I love that the CIA is now on Twitter. I mean, isn't this hysterical? This is their first tweet. We can neither confirm nor deny this is our first tweet. And if you ever are bored one day and you want to have a bit of a laugh, check out the CIA's Twitter feed. It's really wonderful. Every week they have the museum artifact of the week. This is my favorite. This is the pigeon camera. Oh my gosh, the CIA and recruiting pigeons to take spy photos. Now that's pretty cool. They even answer some questions in real time. No, we don't know where Tupac is. And my favorite, no, we don't know your password, so we can't send it to you. Now the reason I'm showing this is because so many people are reluctant to be real time. So many people are reluctant to engage their market instantly and when the market is ready. But my gosh, if the CIA can do it, you can do it. It requires a real-time mindset. And that's the idea of the 5th and final idea around the new rules of selling, the new rules of how content and service and sales are all intertwined. And that's the idea of real-time. The idea of instant. What I've noticed as I travel all over the world delivering presentations on content marketing is that so many organizations are mired in campaign mode. What they do is they focus exclusively on creating marketing and sales programs for the future. It might be the email marketing campaign for next week. It might be the new product launch for next month. It might be the new office they're opening next quarter. But it's all aimed at the future. But I think what these companies are missing is right now. They're missing what's going on right this second. And that's where the opportunity lies. What's happening right this second? Because speed and agility are absolutely decisive competitive advantages. I learned about that because my first job was on a bond trading desk. I worked on Wall Street, my first job, and I learned how real-time content drives action. If you saw a news story on Reuters or Dow Jones or Bloomberg, that moved the market. And if you were able to take advantage of that really quickly, you can make money. If prices from Europe or Asia moved, you could take advantage of that instantly and make some money. Now, every single one of us has the availability of that exact same data for free. My company was spending for me $10,000 a month per person for this kind of data back in the day on Wall Street, and now that information is available for free to any of us who has an internet connection. Mitch Jackson, for example, is a lawyer who does content marketing. Oh my God, is that a contradiction? A lawyer who does content marketing. And he's fantastic. So check out Mitch's site if you want to take a look at some really interesting content marketing. But in particular, Mitch takes advantage of real-time content marketing, and Mitch takes advantage of the concept of newsjacking. So, for example, one of his most recent blog posts, he wrote about the NFL and Roger Goodell and what he was talking about. And he then had a long essay in that blog post about attorney-client privilege. And what's really interesting about Mitch is he ends up getting on the television news and quoted in the newspapers because he comments so quickly on breaking news stories and he comments on the legal angle of those breaking news stories that people are quoting him as an expert source, and that absolutely drives business to him. And he's finding that he's getting a lot more business as a result of doing this kind of real-time engagement. The idea here is that real time is a mindset. Social media like Twitter and blogging and whatnot, those are just the tools. What we're really talking about is a mindset. But when I speak with sales managers and salespeople, I often find that they are not personally engaged, or if they are maybe a little bit engaged, they have, excuse the language, a crappy social media sites and profiles for themselves. They just don't put a good foot forward on their social sites. And they really need to take advantage of doing something differently. Let me share an example of how somebody with a really good social presence can actually make a whole bunch of sales. June 6, 2014, 2 movies are released, The Fault in Our Stars and The Edge of Tomorrow. Tom Cruise sells his movie Edge of Tomorrow using the traditional way. He goes on the talk shows. While John Green sells his movie, The Fault in Our Stars, through social, through real-time engagement through the social networks. For example, when he walked the red carpet for the premiere of the film, he did a video selfie, put that on the YouTube. He tweeted a whole bunch of times. He blogged. He engaged the marketplace instantly using his social networks. $58 million opening for The Fault in Our Stars. It was something like 3 or 4 times more than the Tom Cruise movie opening. And that requires, though, that people, even if it's just a salesperson, a company, already have a presence on social networks. And many times people say, I just don't have time, I don't know how I'm going to be able to do this, and they make excuses. So what I like to say, and this is what you should say to the salespeople in your organization or when you interact with salespeople, is that it's like exercise. If you want to get fit, if you want to become healthy, you have to begin an exercise and diet program. There's nothing like exercise and diet. You just can't cheat your way through it. So if you want to get fit and healthy, you can't just do run a mile once a month. I mean, you have to do something every day. You can't just maybe not have that extra piece of pizza tomorrow. I mean, you have to watch what goes into your body forever. It is a mindset shift. It is a complete and utter mindset shift if you want to become healthy. And I have a little bit of experience with that. In 2011, around my 50th birthday, I weighed 210 pounds. I decided I was going to get fit. I watched what I ate. I exercise every day, and I'm down to 157 pounds right now. It's more than 50 pounds dropped since that left-hand picture was taken. I had learned to become fit. The same thing is true about becoming active in social networks. People say, maybe I'll tweet once a week. That's not going to cut it. You don't have to be obsessive about it, but you have to engage on a regular basis. So I ask people who are in sales, go to Google, type in your name and your company's name, because that's what people do when they're trying to do business with a person. They want to know, who is this person I'm going to do business with? You remember Brian Halligan, we talked about earlier, the CEO of HubSpot. 20% of the new business that company sold of those people looked at Brian's profile page on the HubSpot site. And I noticed so many people have really bad social sites. Those crazy-looking photos, the picture of their cat, and that's just not going to cut it. You've got to create the sort of profile that people will want to engage with, because there's no better calling card than a virtual one. And it brings me back to this concept of fear, because so many times the reasons that people cite for not doing the sorts of things that Byron and I are talking about here is fear. They're scared of something new, and I get that. I understand doing something new is a challenge. And I have had experience with fear myself. Of course, we all have, specifically in Antarctica. So here's the cruise ship that we were on. It was the Ocean Diamond in Antarctica, and my fear came. My wife's fear was crossing the Drake Passage. We did that just fine. My fear was I wanted to jump into the Southern Ocean. I wanted to leap off of our ship into that water where the icebergs are. I cleared it with the ship. They told me I had to put a rope around my waist in case my heart stopped so they can reel me in. And I overcame my fear, and I jumped into the water. It was amazing. experience. I decided as long as I'm jumping into the water, I might as well do a cannonball. As long as I'm in the water, I might as well go for a swim. And yes, those are icebergs in the background. And yes, it was really freaking cold. But I was able to overcome my fear. That's the challenge that you have. That's the challenge you have to deliver to the salespeople in your life, that they need to overcome their fear. This is about the convergence of marketing and sales on the web using content. This is about how content and sales and service work together. This is about growing your business using content. My name's David Meerman Scott. Byron, back to you.
David, fantastic presentation.
Thank you.
And really fantastic. And I saw you speak at HubSpot as well, and just in front of 10,000 people, I might add.
Yeah, that was a big group.
But really good stuff. I have some questions for you, and
sure.
Some questions I'm sure that are going to come in. So, I'm concerned, David. I'm concerned. Do we really all need to be on the stage? Some people might be asking. With regards to getting social and getting with it and publishing content and snapshotting our way around our journey in life. What's your take on that?
I don't think we all need to be. No, my mother doesn't need to be, but I do think that anyone who has a customer-facing job does need to be. So that means if you're a salesperson, I think that people go to, I shouldn't say I think, I know people will go to Google and check you out, or go to LinkedIn and check you out, or check out and see if you're on Twitter and what you're saying. And I think that there is a little bit of skepticism if you aren't transparent about who you are, and if you don't show up on the social networks, if you don't show up on Google except for some 20-year-old arrest record when you were in college for some drunken debauchery, that's the only thing that appears on Google when someone searches your name. I think that's a hindrance. So does everybody need to publish a blog and a YouTube channel and be active on all of the social networks? No, of course not. But everybody ought to understand what it is that appears when people enter the name of the company they work for and their name, what appears. And whatever appears, that's who you are. That is you. And I believe that a good salesperson, a good customer services representative, a good executive, a good CEO will find that profile is something they need to focus on because it helps to drive more business.
Great answer. I had the pleasure to meet and have a very long discussion with Tom Peters some time ago. That we actually parsed ourselves off from an event that we were both attending, and somehow 2 hours passed, and the event was, I think, over when we left. But we talked about many things, and one of a project that he was working on was a book that he actually never ended up publishing called Brand Me. And it was this interesting concept of who am I? What are my beliefs? What are my values? Do they fit with this company I'm working with? Maybe not. Maybe I shouldn't be part of the mainstream. It's a really interesting book and discussion, and Tom and I journeyed through content marketing and all kinds of interesting things. And one of the things that we talked about was this concept of how people are changing so much, and what is ADD was, of course, is on the rise. And when you talk about real-time mindset, it freaks me out a little bit, because I do worry that my employees are out looking at tweets and Facebook posts and being distracted throughout the course of the day when we need them to be focused on customer needs and wants and executing. And is there a time and place for all of this? So my long-winded question is, what about real-time mindset? Are you worried that we could become very distracted from all the action happening on the stage all around us, and feeling like we don't want to miss anything, with gripping our phones tightly and not letting them down in our hands? Does that worry you at all?
It does not worry me. As I mentioned in the presentation, I've grown up with real-time. I'm now 53. At the age of 22, I had my first job, which was on a bond trading desk. So 30 years I've been living the real-time life. I think it requires balance. But I'll tell you this, here's the difference. Here's why it's so important. Back in the day, call it 10 years ago or call it 5 years ago, whatever your line in the sand is, but back in the day, the salesperson and the company controlled the relationships with buyers. That was because they had control over the information. If you wanted to have access to the executives in the company, you had to go through the salesperson. If you wanted to get the pricing information, you had to go through the salesperson. If you wanted to get the product specs, you had to go through the salesperson. Now all of that is available on the web. I can reach the CEO of a company through LinkedIn or Twitter. I can find out the pricing by going doing a search on Google. I can find out what people are saying about your products and services through review sites or through forums or through my social networks. So that means the buyer's in charge. And that's a really big difference from what it's been in the past when the seller has been in charge. So when the buyer is in charge, when the buyer is ready to make a decision, it's important to be quick to get back to the buyer, and it's important, if you can, to understand what the buyer already knows. And that means that this idea of real time becomes important, because if, the example of going to Antarctica, if I spend 2 months doing independent research and all of a sudden I'm ready to make a decision, you've got to be ready to engage me when I'm good and ready to make a buying decision, because if you don't, I might go over to the next guy. So I think because we're in a world where the buyer is in charge, I think that means that we as people who are servicing buyers, whether you're a marketer or a salesperson or writer or whatever you are, but we as people who service the buyers need to live in that real-time world. And I believe that concept of newsjacking specifically for writers becomes a really interesting manifestation of this concept of real-time, because if there's a breaking news story in the marketplace of the company that you either work for or that that you're associated with, and you can be the first person to put commentary out about that breaking news story, that has a tremendous opportunity to drive value. But if you waited till overnight, or you didn't see the story till the next day, or if it was a Sunday and you said, I'll get to it on Monday, time is lost. You've missed it. You are not going to be the first person, because someone else will beat you to it. It's just the nature of the world we live in right now. If you don't like it, you can go live on an island somewhere. That's cool, but that's the way the market's going, and that's how we can succeed, I believe.
Spot on. Tell me where you think content marketing is going.
Channels,
better quality, more people in tune, more tools, more data. What do you think?
I think the future is here right now, but I think so few people are actually taking advantage of it. I mean, what we're able to do right now at our fingertips, which even just with a mobile phone, is phenomenal. I mean, just think back a couple of years, something like Skype or shooting a video and putting it up on YouTube instantly with a mobile phone, that's radical stuff. And I think we're living the future right now. And frankly, I don't even think about what's happening in the next couple of weeks or months or years, because what we've got available now is so interesting. And I think there's so much potential and so much opportunity that people are not taking advantage of. And sure, you could think, okay, there's going to be this and there's going to be that 2 years from now. But what is, even if you knew with perfect knowledge what was going to be happening 2 years from now, other than maybe making some money in the stock market, what's the point of that? Because we have so much opportunity here today.
Here's a tough question for you. I know you're on the advisory board for HubSpot, but do you think this concept of inbound is different from content marketing as a thought leadership position and as an understanding, or do you think there is one a sub of the other? And is inbound a fad that is really sustained and supported by content marketing? It may just phase out. What's your take on that?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a bit of semantics here and there. I mean, content marketing is a term that some people use. Inbound marketing, of course, a term that some people use. I named my book "The New Rules of Marketing and PR." So, arguably, some people use the word "new rules" in there. I've seen a lot of people now use the term real-time marketing. I wrote the first book called Real-Time Marketing and PR. So, I think it's a lot of semantics. I think we all kind of now see what you and I were one of the very few people 10 years ago to see. We all now see that there's something going on out there. And, whether we call it inbound or marketing or content marketing or new rules of marketing or something else, I think we're kind of all talking about pretty much the same thing. And I know people have branded, other people, another term that I've seen thrown around, I've actually used myself as well, is brand journalism. I think they're kind of all pretty similar, and I think it's more about let's get out there and be successful than trying to define what it actually is, in my mind.
One more, I just can't help myself, and then we're going to phase out here. By default, probably we'll get shut off by GoToWebinar or whatever. But talk to me about writing style. You're an author.
Yeah.
We see communication happening now that's very unusual, communication between one another on our mobile phones and text. Do you think writing's going to take a different turn with how we communicate? Is the subject, verb, object going to ever change?
I don't really see that so much, but what I am absolutely seeing, no doubt about it, is that writing has become much less formal. And you used to get banged over the head that you have to use, Strunk and White or Chicago Manual Style or something like that. I burn those damn books because they don't mean anything to me anymore. Because you know what? If I want to use a contraction, I'm going to use a contraction. If I want to use a sentence that has one word in it with an exclamation point, I'll do that. I think that many companies are still mired in best-of-breed, cutting-edge, mission-critical corporate gobbledygook. And they need to speak like human beings and write like human beings. And I think that it's actually really liberating and really, really excellent that what the web and all of this short form has done, in my mind, is make writing much more like the spoken language now that people use, and much more informal and much more approachable and much less stilted and corporate-y than it was even just a couple of short years ago. And now that's really exciting for writers because you don't have to be bound by these written and unwritten rules that we used to all be bound by. You can, get yourself out and make it known. And if you made, in quotation marks, a mistake, sometimes that makes it even better writing.
Just great having you on today, David. Really appreciate your
Thank
time.
you. It's good to be here.
Right on.
We should do it again.
Well, let's do it indeed. Let's let you rest for a little while, though, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe no gigs for a while.
No books.
Well, I know that you'll have monstrous success with your new book, and we all wish you well on that. Your presentation was fantastic. Have you warmed up since the big thaw and the big dive in the southern?
That was cold. I do weird swimming things. This past Saturday, I swam Boston Harbor, which is about a mile.
Wow.
And I just signed up for the Alcatraz swim, so I'm going to swim from Alcatraz to San Francisco. That's my next adventure.
Far out.
That's an exciting one. So
we'll look for some real time updates on that.
Always doing anything that involves water.
Well, I've really enjoyed the questions and the answers and discussing with you today in your presentation. So thanks for tuning in. And until next month, everyone, I hope you're a little smarter and faster and wiser. Thanks to David. Thanks for tuning in to the 55th. We'll see you on the 56th next month. Thanks for tuning in, everyone.